introduction later on? Okay. And Bob Fernanda, also the judge today, will take care of our startups, and Axel, and yeah, he will do the introduction later on. I'd like to introduce my first speaker, which is Axel Schultze. He's a serial entrepreneur, CEO of Society 3 and the Accelerator, serial entrepreneur in Europe. He had 3 companies in Europe, IPO'd once with 5 billion in revenue, then came here to the US, started Blue Roads, which is a channel solution, and was sold in 2008. And now his love is our startups, and he will share today with us how crowdfunding would be also a way for funding. Axel, do you take over? Thanks.
All right. Thank you very much. So I hope my voice will hold. I was speaking, I don't know, since yesterday morning, almost straight. So, but I'll try my best. Yeah, today the topic, before we go to the presentations, we do this every event, have one topic that is startup related, is crowdfunding. And I want to talk to crowdfunding as an interesting alternative to funding in the first place. Those who followed us a little bit, I just wonder if I have my thingy here, yeah, who followed us a little bit, we're very much into helping startups get traction, and traction is really needed to get funding, and we did that because I just learned the other day that it's not a good idea to talk about luck, but I do anyway. I think I was just lucky to get traction pretty much out of the gate with every company I started in my past. So I thought, okay, when we do an accelerator and help other startups, we do that by focusing on traction. So traction first, and then funding. And the reason is, and most of you who have been looking for funding probably heard it over and over already, you know, what's your traction? So let me ask you, who's actually a startup here, running a startup, looking for funding, and trying to get it off the ground? Oh, cool, super, oh wow, yeah, very cool. So you're all heroes, you know, absolutely, you know you are, because imagine we have, what do you have, 7 billion people on the planet, and there's only a few thousand who actually have the guts, the balls, and an idea to start a new business and actually employing many of these 7 billions down the road in the next 5 to 10 years. So you're truly heroes. I mean, you don't feel that because you're so focused on your startup, and I totally agree. You know, that should be your focus, but that's cool. So you heard traction is important, and then funding. And so what happened about 2 or 3 months ago, we saw a couple startups trying to do a crowdfunding campaign through Kickstarter or Indiegogo or any of these kind of sort of systems or platforms, and unfortunately, most failed. They didn't fail because the product was not good or any of those problems. They failed because they did not focus enough on the crowdfunding activities. Crowdfunding means you will actually attract a part of the market. I try to attract this little remote thingy. No attraction here. You try to attract the market, and you do one of the same mistakes that companies, startups, all the way up to global enterprises do. You think you throw something new out in the market, and they're just waiting for you. But nobody does this, unfortunately. You know, if you think about, you saw all these stats of hundreds of thousands of new videos get uploaded every minute. So there's so much out there, which is actually great, but it's very difficult to cut through the noise. So let me talk about what can you do to actually run a crowdfunding campaign in order to augment your capital situation And in general, there are two major aspects. One is perks, meaning you give out something, or equity, where you get basically shares to some investors, and there are crowdfunding platforms here in the US who do that. Obviously, accredited investors only. I knew it worked. You got it to work somehow. So what I want to do today, because the equity-based crowdfunding is, so to speak, pretty simple. You give out shares for equity. I mean, it's basically an electronic way of the fundraising process. But the crowdfunding for perks is extremely interesting and should be extremely interesting for all of you. Because what you do is you sell at what price ever with a couple nice things, add-ons, like a t-shirt or so. You sell your product into a market that is possibly attracted by what you're doing. Now, if you are afraid to do that because you don't know whether they even are interested in what you have, well, that should be obviously your very first red flag saying, oh God, so what I'm doing is possibly total garbage, I'm just, playing around. So, no, build something the market wants. And if you do, then you will see in traction, even before you think traction of an investment from an investor. So here are a couple campaigns. Earbud Edge, that was 12 million, the little wrist watch, 1.5 million. So there are a couple very interesting campaigns which did basically play a lot of money into the cash of those startups. Now, what I don't show here, because there is not enough room, is these hundreds, actually thousands of campaigns who did not work out. They had $500, $300, $12, $722, and are way off. So, what you really need to consider is what you want to do during that crowdfunding campaign in order to attract the market. Preparation time, at least 2 months. Okay? Oh, you get this done, cool. Sorry. So there are basically 5 reasons for crowdfunding, if you consider that. Incremental market exposure. There is rarely a case where you can launch a product with an audience as big as these crowdfunding platforms have. And if you do this right, you will be seen by literally hundreds of thousands of people. So that's a huge plus. Has nothing to do with money, but it's really a huge exposure. Number 2, new ambitious users and fans. People who buy something at a crowdfunding campaign or platform are typical very early adapters, people who get engaged by something very new, they get excited about it. And these people have a huge advantage for you. They are typically, they say, this is cool, I want it right away, and then they get it, and they will tell you also right away whether they actually like it or not. So you get almost instantaneous feedback, and the feedback will be in 99%, more negative potentially than positive, because these guys are very critical. They simply want to help you. So that's another huge plus. Gives you additional market validation. So if the people buy, that means the market is actually ready for what you have. And that is cool. Market validation is one of the coolest things you will experience when your product goes into that market. Then we have a large number of paying users. All of a sudden, if you can sell, your products and sell basically 200, 300, 400 perks to new customers, you have paying customers. They get the product, and they get a little extras, but you have paying customers. Paying customers means there is somebody who's actually willing to pay money to get your product, and actually even more money potentially to get it early. And last but not least, attention from professional investors. Now, if what I said earlier, the traction question. Imagine you are an investor you'll be done with your startups, you did 3 or 4 very successfully, you made enough money, and now you invest back into startups. You look into these companies with the same eyes like you have today. No difference. When I look into companies, I look with the same brain like I ran my own startups in the past. So, but what you also will want to do is you will want to see if these companies you will invest actually did some traction, actually did something attractive to the market. And today, almost all the products are pretty complex or pretty unique, they're pretty odd, they're doing something nobody else has done before, which is all positive. Just go ahead. But for the investor, it's very tough to decide whether this is going to fly or not. So therefore, they look into market validation, into traction. And that's what the cool thing is about these crowdfunding campaigns. I mean, if somebody comes and says, okay, and I had one of these companies at our last event, he said, okay, they had a little microchip, and they actually sold the microchip through the company they sold that chip to in a crowdfunding campaign. We sold for over $1 million little airplanes. I mean, me as an investor, I don't know anything about what they did, but that was really compelling for me. They did $1 million worth of product sales through a campaign like that. For a new company, nobody trusted them, nobody knew them, nobody had an idea where this really goes. Will they ever produce the product they're promising to do? That was very compelling. So that's something you need to consider too. Because with a crowdfunding campaign, you would get the market validation, and that's why I said, the last but not least point is attention from investors. They would actually come almost automatically when you're successful. Okay? So, there are also some risks. And that chart is probably not seen by a lot of people, and a lot of people have not articulated the risk of a crowdfunding campaign. And I don't want to make it negative, but I want you to be absolutely sure you know that too. Because this is the reason why crowdfunding campaigns fail, because they don't know. And if they fail, that's not nice. So first of all, you would potentially disappoint current users. So if you have a couple hundred users and your crowdfunding campaign fails, this is also a bad feeling for them. So you need to make sure that this doesn't go south, so to speak. You have a set of red flags for future investors. Because they think, oh God, he tried a crowdfunding campaign, but nobody was really biting. Why should I? I mean, if the market says no, why should I actually invest? You may lose employees. You may turn off new users. So there are a couple things you need to also consider when the crowdfunding campaign would fail, what that means to you and your company. Now, listen carefully. If you don't do a crowdfunding campaign because of those risks, I recommend to you shut down your business. Absolutely. I mean, I'm as serious as I can get. Because if you don't take the risk to go to the market, then don't go to the market at all. Please. Because you do yourself a favor, your team, your early adapters, your future investors, everybody. So you have to take that leap of faith, and I don't say you have to do a crowdfunding campaign, but I can only recommend look into this extremely seriously, extremely carefully, because it can give you not only initial revenue stream and therefore cash in the bank without giving out equity. It can, and in most places it does, attract the investors you're looking for. Okay? So, how to do that? Planning is everything. So there's some key figures from the Indiegogo CEO, and I hope we will have them once here. So having a video on your crowdfunding campaign, on average, these are their data points, increases the volume by 114%. The numbers are out of, I think, 16,000 crowdfunding campaigns we ran, so basically did some stats. The magic number of perks, between 3 and 8. The campaign typically hits their success target at day 36. Update every 5 days or less raises 4 times the amount. Let me ask you real quick, who did a crowdfunding campaign with you guys? On any of the platforms? Nobody yet? Okay, so that's good, so you learn something. And you learn it from listening rather than from own experience. Yeah. The other interesting thing is most backers come from email, Facebook, and Twitter. The whole of you is not on Twitter, doesn't really do anything on Twitter. Oh, okay. See, this is one of the differences. I asked the same question when we were over in Europe, and we had almost 50% raise their hands, so that's the US advantage. Average contribution size around $70. So if you want to raise $70,000, and you know that this is the average, you also know that you need 1,000 people who do that. And 1,000 people with your friends and friends' friends, your existing users, is not that kind of a problematic objective. Now the other stat, which is not on here, is that typically your own ecosystem contributes between 25 and 30% to the whole. Which means if your own ecosystem is able to contribute 25,000, then you can actually think that somewhere between $70,000 and $100,000 should come in if you run the crowdfunding campaign properly. Teams of 4 raise 70% more than single founders. Who of you are single founders? 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. I don't want to go too much into details, but I would like to urge you, as soon as humanly possible, find a co-founder. You will have the hardest time to actually get investors' attention as single founders. There are just almost no cases these days where single founders really made it all the way to the top, but founder teams did. And so investors are extremely critical about single founder companies in general. Okay? So, most backers come from Facebook, Twitter, and email. We said that, I think we can skip that. So, we're actually running our own crowdfunding campaign starting October 1st. And so, for us it's a little bit of risk because we are, as you know, we run the accelerator. We have our own technology labs. And one of the products is actually pretty cool. It has grown pretty nicely. And so we said, okay, we want to get some funding and also want to kind of build up sort of an example for a software company. Because one of the things you will also notice with crowdfunding campaigns that software companies are less likely to succeed than hardware companies. We saw a great example from the Swiss email security company. They raised $550,000. Software company, not even a Silicon Valley company, so they did everything right that you ever can do right on a crowdfunding campaign. But, so it's possible, but it's not that easy. And so we were planning our own campaign for a little over 2 months now. We actually take the whole planning mechanism into our next accelerator program so that everybody in the accelerator program learns, kind of, on the living object to run a crowdfunding campaign. Okay? So one of the things, so what we did, and this is another new and unique, we actually take an existing product crowdfunding, which nobody has done before. At least we don't know anybody, and we asked a lot around if somebody actually crowdfunded an existing product, in our case, take it to the next level. So we have this ugly UI over there, a little bit of nicer UI down there, and so we try to do that. Okay? And so this is an example. So we have on Google Drive, we have basically a spreadsheet, and there are some, I think, 180 line items of activities of things to prepare. So you can see it's a lot of work. And everybody will tell you, and I do that too, it completely consumes you. And I think that's fair, because what you're doing is massive. You're trying to introduce a new company with a new product into a existing very crowded market, and you do this in 4 to 8 weeks preparation, and then you have 4 to 6 weeks execution of the entire campaign, and try to win $100,000 or $500,000 on top. So there are not a lot of people who do that, but when you do it right, it's absolutely possible, and that's the beauty about it. Okay? So, get funding for your own product, and here's what I said earlier. If there is no crowd that will fund it, it's no business worth doing. I mean, it sounds very brutal, but if you digest that one sentence as hard and as fast as you can into the inner works of your brain, if there is nobody who will fund your product, I mean now buyer, not investors, it's not a company worth doing. Because even if investors come in and throw $1 million into advertising, which nobody does anymore, but even then it will probably not work. Okay? So, making $250,000 in 45 days. That's sort of a grand objective for a crowdfunding campaign, and that's something I would just urge you to consider, because, you know, it's a big number. Oh, this is even euros. Oh, how fun. Now, here are a couple things that you need to know. It will consume you and your team entirely. So you can't do this on the side. We did, well actually not we did, but I was involved in a crowdfunding campaign 2 years ago, which we all did on the side. It was a complete failure. It just did not work at all. In retrospect, when we looked into our checklist, what we have to do and what we cannot avoid to do, we realized we did everything wrong, what we could do wrong. And the outcome of, I think it was like $50,000 goal, the outcome was, I think, 325 or something absurd. So it was a complete failure. It was really, you know, a pity, but it was also a good learning effect. So without a plan, you won't make it. I mean, that's very clear. And your network, again, I mean, the Facebooks and the Twitters and all these guys, your friends, they are key. And you will want to reach out to everybody individually, personally, on the phone, in the email, on messaging, wherever, and ask them to help you. That is your first important pool, and if you make that happen, everything else will come. If you hit 25% of your goal, let's say you're trying to get 100,000, for instance, and you get $25,000 in the first week, you get actually trending on all these, whether it's Kickstarter or Indiegogo and so on. You get trending, and if you get trending, then people look at you, and if they look at you because you're trending, then they are likely to buy it too, and that's where basically the machine starts. So one of the key things is you work as hard as you can to get, you know, your first 25 to 30% in the first week. You know, zero equity. And that's the coolest thing. And you get everything you need to have to get started with investors later on. Okay? I think that's it. Let's make it happen. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Axel. So yeah, we start October 1st. I don't know what to do, I can tell you. So now what we will have are 5 startups who will present their product, and here we have a jury who will look into these startups, how they are doing, and if there is money to invest. With me in the jury, George, may I just ask you to join me?
Sure.
Thanks.
Hi everyone, my name is George Parrish. I'm an advisor, mentor, investor, sit on the board of 4 or 5 startups here in town currently. And one of the things that I want to tell everybody tonight, it's very, very important from a pitch standpoint, since I'm going to judge at a number of these type of events all over town, is that the story is everything, okay? I mean, I know that you're very, very bright, and I know that you've designed some wonderful technology for us to see, but I've already spent 25 years in the technology vertical, so believe me, I'm looking forward to hearing about what it is that you have to do, and I'm here to help you succeed and I want to see you succeed. And I want to see you happy as a result of your success. So tonight, if anybody wants to talk to me, let me tell you something about networking. Tonight is not the night to come up and try to pitch me with a 5-minute pitch while I'm standing here and somebody is standing behind you. Hand me your business card, and ethically over the next 2 weeks, we will meet face to face. I'll hear your story, I'll hear what your hopes, dreams, and aspirations are, and I'll see what I can do to help you get moving forward. Okay? All right? So good luck to everyone tonight. Believe me, I mean, the reason I'm here is because when I hear a business solution to a real business problem, it makes me sit up and go, wow, that's fantastic. So best of luck to everybody tonight. Thank you for the few moments. Thank you for coming. And if you want to talk to me after this thing, make it short and brief, and then we'll get together in the next 2 weeks, okay? Thank you.